Have you ever felt it? The moment you win, and they go quiet. Not jealous, not angry, just missing. The likes stop. The check-ins fade. They're proud of you. Disappears. But they're watching. Always watching. People don't leave when you fail. They leave when you stop needing them. That's the first sign. They smiled at your struggle. They rooted for your comeback. But the second you stood tall, they got uncomfortable. Because now, you're proof that excuses don't work. You're a mirror, and they can't stand the reflection. Marcus said, "Don't waste time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." And when you become one, they won't clap. They'll compete. That's how the game works. Loyalty, it's a rental. And the moment you level up, they return the keys. So ask yourself, who checks in when you're silent? Who shows up without a reason? Who's still clapping, even when it's not about them? Because that's your tribe. Everyone else, they were just noise. You're not bitter. You're just done. They don't hate you. They just don't know what to do. When the version of you they were comfortable with no longer shows up, you start talking less. You stop over-explaining. You no longer fold just to keep the peace. And that unsettles them. Because when you were smaller, you were safe, predictable, containable. Now, you're none of those things. You stopped asking for permission. You no longer need their validation. You sit at the table like you belong there, because you do, and that makes people nervous. But here's the truth no one wants to admit. Most friendships are built on shared wounds, not shared values. And the moment you start healing, they can't relate to you anymore. It's not that they changed. It's that you saw them clearly for the first time. You see the subtle digs, the silent competition, the jokes with sharp edges. You hear the word loyalty, but you finally see who only stood beside you when you were standing still. Growth exposes everything, not just in you, but in them. And what hurts the most is not that they leave, but that they stay close enough to watch and never clap. You stop telling people what your next move is, not because you're secretive, but because you finally understand power isn't announced. It's revealed in silence. They joke about your seriousness. They call it cold, distant. But what they don't see is the storms you've already survived, the things that no longer break you. Because when you've learned to walk alone, when you've learned to rebuild yourself quietly, you no longer need the noise. You've learned the art of detachment, the strength of stillness. You begin to listen more, speak less, not because you're weak, but because you're studying everyone, reading between words, measuring intentions. You're no longer reactive. You're responsive, sharp, calm, calculated. Someone raises their voice, you lower yours, not to concede, but to dominate the space with control. Someone insults you, you smile, not because you agree, but because you've grown past their opinion. This is what they won't teach you in books. That true mental strength doesn't look like screaming or proving. It looks like restraint. It sounds like silence. You've become dangerous, Because you don't flinch, you don't beg, you don't chase. They feel it, even when you say nothing. Especially then, you're not just playing the game anymore. You've become the board. If this resonates with something deep inside, don't scroll past it. Subscribe. This space isn't noise. It's where power returns to its source. Stay with us. You belong here. They thought you'd explain yourself, defend, justify, but you didn't. You left the air empty, and in that silence, they heard everything. When you stop trying to be understood, you begin to understand. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Not everyone is meant to walk your path, especially those who mock what they don't understand. Your stillness, your vision, your healing, they can't see it because it scares them, because your evolution exposes their stagnation. You begin to see through people, the compliments that hide envy, the just kidding insults, the support that disappears the moment you rise. And instead of confronting them, you withdraw, not out of fear, but wisdom. You no longer fight battles that cost you peace. That's how you grow, not with loud wins, but quiet exits, graceful boundaries, silent departures. You walk out of circles that celebrate chaos and enter solitude that honors your growth. And in that quiet, you meet yourself, the one who doesn't flinch when left alone, the one who doesn't chase love, but becomes it, the one who's not distracted by the noise because they've learned to listen within. This isn't detachment, it's awareness. This isn't coldness, it's clarity. You're not avoiding people, you're attracting peace. By removing access to your energy, you've multiplied its power. And the moment you did that, they noticed. They started watching you, not with support, but suspicion. How did you change so fast? Why are you quieter, calmer, sharper? They don't realize you burned the bridge inside yourself first, the one that led to needing their approval, to explaining your worth, to proving you belong. You stopped trying to fix people, stopped trying to make them see you. Instead, you saw yourself, and that changed everything. They used to joke about your dreams. Now they're quiet when you speak, not because they agree, but because they fear what you might become if you keep going. You stopped talking, started doing, started being. Every word they used to control you, you returned with silence, not weakness, mastery. That's how power moves, not loud, not proud, just precise. You no longer reveal your plans, you embody them. They don't see your next move until it's already made. That's what makes you dangerous now. Not your anger, not your ambition. You're calm. Because calm means you've let go of needing, of begging, of convincing. You don't hate them. You just outgrew them. And there's no revenge more complete than becoming everything they said you couldn't. So let them whisper. Let them wonder. Let them wait for the version of you that no longer exists. Because now, you're writing a new story. And this time, you're not asking for permission. You realize something most never do, that silence is a weapon, and restraint is a form of dominance. They thought you'd break. They thought without their attention, you'd shrink. But you didn't. You grew in the shadows. While they chased validation, you chased discipline. While they performed, you prepared. You read more. You slept deeper. You moved slower, but with purpose. And the less they heard from you, the more they started wondering what you were building in your absence. Because power doesn't announce itself. It walks in after the noise dies. You stopped explaining yourself, because anyone who demands an explanation doesn't deserve the answer. You stopped reacting, because not everything deserves your energy. And you stopped showing up where you were only tolerated. Now, you show up where you're respected. Your time became sacred. Your peace, non-negotiable. They call it distance. You call it evolution. You weren't looking for attention. You were building resilience. The kind they can't fake. The kind they can't copy. The kind that comes from facing yourself in silence and not flinching. They used to know the old you, the one that needed their support. But this new you, it doesn't need to be liked. It only needs to be aligned. And that scares them, because nothing is more dangerous than someone who knows exactly who they are and refuses to go back. You didn't lose them. You left them. There's a difference. One comes from weakness, the other from strength. People say you changed. No, you just stopped lying to yourself. You stopped pretending they were your people. Stopped laughing at jokes that weren't funny. Stopped shrinking to make them feel tall. They were never uncomfortable with the real you. They were uncomfortable with you discovering it. Because once you see your worth, you stop accepting half-effort, empty words, conditional love. You stop answering texts that feel like traps. Stop explaining boundaries to people who only respect lines they draw. You walk away from games you didn't sign up for. You realize loyalty without reciprocity is self-betrayal. And that's not who you are anymore. You're not bitter, just clear. You're not angry, just awake. You don't hate them. You just no longer abandon yourself to keep them close. That's growth. That's clarity. That's power. And the beautiful thing? You don't need revenge. You don't need to prove a thing. Your life now is the loudest response. Because when peace walks into a room, chaos gets quiet. And when self-respect becomes your baseline, everything else adjusts. People who never saw you before suddenly notice. People who dismissed you suddenly reach out. But now, you see through it all. You don't crave to be seen. You crave to stay sane. You don't chase. You choose. And from this place of stillness, you build something they can't touch. A life on your terms. The old you would have stayed, would have argued, would have begged, would have tried to be enough, but not this you. Now you know that silence can say everything, that walking away isn't giving up, it's growing up. Because not every battle is yours. Not every comment deserves a reply. Not every person deserves your presence. You've learned to sit with yourself without needing noise to drown the thoughts. You've learned to wait, not with impatience, but with awareness. Because when you truly know your worth, You stop performing for approval. You stop bleeding to prove you're alive. You rest. You rise. And you return, not to who you were, but to who you were always meant to be. A soul not shaken by storms. A mind not broken by noise. A presence that doesn't need to shout. This is what they feared. Not your rage, not your ambition, but your peace. Because peace is powerful. It's unreadable, unpredictable, uncontrollable. And now, that's you. So next time they test you, poke at you, dismiss you, don't flinch, don't perform, just breathe. Remember who you are and walk on. Because nothing unsettles the manipulator more than the one who simply won't play. If you're ready to stop reacting and start reclaiming, this is your place. Tap into your calm, step into your strength, and explore the next journey waiting for you. We'll meet you there.